can't wait to hear about all the things you do.
A couple of years ago in March, I took 3 of my kids to the Campania area of Italy, around Naples. And one day in Amalfi, we had pasta genovese, which is, as you well know, an onion sauce that actually had what looked like sliced pot roast in it. It was fabulous. I never had it before. So I said, hey, let's make it here in the Tuscany. I think it's one of those great pasta dishes that very few people know about. But there are a lot of tricks to it.
There are a lot of tricks to it, yeah. I mean, starting off with the most authentic way to make it, where you take lots and lots of water and you use that to simmer beef, usually beef round. And you simmer the beef round with a lot of onions, often 2 to 3 times the onions per beef. And you reduce down that oniony sauce to toss with pasta. Well, we found out a few problems with that recipe. One, it wasn't beefy enough for us. We actually wanted more flavor than the round could afford to us. And there was a huge amount of liquid that we had to reduce down in order to dress pasta. So what do we end up with? A chuck-eye roast. It has an amazing amount of fat and marbling. The longer you cook it, the better it gets. This is a 1-pound chuck-eye roast. We could cook it like this, but that would take about 3.5 hours. So we're going to speed up the cooking here. And I'll cut this into quadrants, just lengthwise, and then right across. And each of these little mini roasts are now going to cook at a much faster rate. But some of these pieces, you'll notice, have really hard fat in there. And we do want to get rid of the hard fat. So by cutting this into smaller pieces, it's pretty darn easy for me to get in there with a knife and just cut away any of these big pieces of fat. All right, this is a teaspoon of kosher salt. Just want to make sure that it's well seasoned on all sides. And a half a teaspoon of black pepper. We're going to use the food processor to chop up all of our vegetables and other ingredients. So first thing that's going to go in is pancetta, 2 ounces, along with 2 ounces of salami. And now we are going to process this until it forms a smooth paste, and that'll take about 30 seconds. All right, now next in, 1 carrot cut into 1/2-inch pieces, and 1 rib of celery also cut into 1/2-inch pieces. And we're also going to grind these with the meat ingredients that are in there so that they're really, really small. Another 30 seconds to do it. And we're going to put all of this paste right into our Dutch oven. There's no oil in here. The fat from the salami and the pancetta are going to start the cooking process. Chris, if you could turn the heat on, medium heat is what I'm looking for here. And we're going to let that cook for about 5 minutes until the pancetta starts to look a little bit brown, and the salami as well. Last ingredient, white onions, yellow onions, you can use either of them. This is 2.5 pounds. We've cut these into larger pieces. We're doing this in 2 batches. If we put all of this in, the onions wouldn't really chop evenly. 8 to 10 cloves should do it. And I'll continue with the second batch of onions, and we'll go ahead and wait for that pancetta to fully render and start to brown. That smells so good already. Now, we're going to add a little bit of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons. Traditionally, this particular dish is all based on beef and onion. We're going to cook this for about 90 seconds. And by cooking it, we're deepening the flavor. It's going to taste less like tomato, more beefy. All right, now we're going to add 2 cups of water. Start scraping up all those brown bits. We want to incorporate all that into the sauce. All right. Now, and go all those onions. Okay, so Chris, we need to bring this up to the boil. And remember, before I mentioned that a lot of authentic recipes would use 6 cups or more of water. And we thought that the onions made with all that water tasted really beefy, and it took so long to reduce the sauce for the pasta. So we thought, well, let's just cut out the water completely. Less water, more concentrated flavor. But there was a huge problem with it. There was less beef flavor in the onions. We were wondering why, but as it turns out, water is a key component to drawing out the beefy flavor of onions. Now we're going to add a little bit of dry white wine. This is a 1/2 cup, and a tablespoon of chopped marjoram. You can also use fresh oregano, but marjoram is a little bit more traditional for this. It's not used enough in cooking, I think. I love the flavor of marjoram. And now, I'll go ahead and place the beef right in there. Just nestle it in here. Oh, I know. That's right. All right, so now that this is at a good simmer, we're going to take this over to the oven, and we're not going to cover it up. We're actually going to cook it in a 300-degree oven for about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
All right, ready for the big reveal? Ta-da! I can smell that. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. But the beef is done cooking. Oh my gosh, it's so tender. Fall apart. I am going to transfer the beef to a carving board here. See, they are like little mini pot roasts.
They shrank.
They did. And now, what's left in the pot, I do want to reduce down, but since we let the lid off before we put the pot into the oven, it's not going to take that long. So a good 10 minutes over medium heat should do it. And in the meantime, I'm going to take 2 forks and eat all this meat. No, I'm going to shred it into bite-sized pieces. All right, so while I'm working on this beef, I think you have some pasta to cook.
Okay. 4 quarts of boiling water, we put in 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, a pound of rigatoni, and we're going to cook it till it's just al dente. We'll check it after 6 or 7 minutes.
All right, Chris, the sauce is reduced. We can see the bottom of the pot, so most of that moisture has evaporated. This is a half cup of dry white wine, and we're adding it right at the end of cooking to preserve its fresher flavor. And it only needs to cook for about a minute or 2. But in the meantime, I think the pasta's probably ready to drain.